There was a group of people trying to climb the highest peak. Around 100,000 years ago. Around 100,000 years ago, trying to climb the highest peak was a very difficult task because they had to think of themselves just like any of the other animals. And one of the animals which climbed the highest peak very efficiently was the mountain goat. So these group of people, they had all kinds of implements of those times around 100,000 years ago, which resembled a mountain goat, as they had seen as an example which could climb the highest and steepest of peaks. Now the reason to climb the highest and steepest of peaks was to protect themselves from other animals. And also that kind of peak had other animals which included wild mountain goats, which they could also use for their survival, which included food, clothing, and all the associated implements. And they studied how the mountain goat climbed the highest of peaks with its hoofs. It did not look into the danger that was imminent if it fell, and of imminent death from the highest of peaks, thousands of feet above the ground. But the mountain goat was very specific in the area which it was climbing in. The small piece of patch within the highest peak of mountain, and the balance of the hoofs, and the area where it stood was all that was important to the mountain goat. The depression of the highest peak, the depression which led to death, was not its concern. It was concerned about climbing the highest peaks. So these people studied the mountain goat and they started to climb using the same principles by which the mountain goat climbed the highest of peaks. And 100,000 years ago, they were able to climb the highest peak. A group of people. And they made that their abode. They were kind of safe from the predatory animals, which included the saber-toothed tiger, the tiger which was much bigger than an elephant, as we understand according to prehistoric scientific knowledge. The dinosaurs maybe, and other animals which roamed the kingdom at that time. So they thought themselves as they were safe within that peak. Although the mountain goats were very feeble in its hoofs, it had the ability to climb the highest of mountains, and that's what the first humans understood by studying the mountain goat. Over a period of time, the family prospered on the highest peaks and became a society. And they might be one of those people who have spread across the world. Now, just like how the group of people had evolved with nature 100,000 years back, today we have reached a stage by our evolution has moved thousands of times every year. The greatest of technologies, the greatest of quantum computers and deep learning will help us evolve 10,000 years in terms of evolution just in a matter of year, maybe. Because such is our understanding of deep knowledge. And once we are with the energies of the earth, we will move with the future children of the earth. We will make their lives a blessing, and in doing so our lives on earth are blessed with the source code of life, protecting us, giving us the energy, the vibrancy of our soul, along with the creation of earth, along with our human bodies and all of the elements of nature which support us. Let's replenish our earth. Around 25,000 years ago, there was an intense storm flowing. It was moving towards a kind of township of that time, which was made of natural materials, which included rocks. But they had houses, they had implements, they had road systems, they had families, they had a society during the time, which was 10,000 years ago. But with the technology of those times and the storm, a very big storm was moving into the village and the society. Now the people of that time had an ability to predict storms by which they could look at the sky and get to know that there was a storm brewing. They could also look at some animals, which included the crows and some of the birds, the way they used to behave before a storm, and they used to predict accurately that a storm was coming. And they knew that the storm was very intense. But they had a technology of those times. The technology of those times was to surround themselves with mountains on all four sides. So they chose a living space which was in between mountains. And the storm came intensely and passed through certain areas of the mountains which were open. And those areas of the mountains which were open, people did not inhabit. They had a system by which the storm would come through certain areas by which the mountains were open and pass away through areas by which again the mountains were open on the other side. So even at that time, they evolved with technology of those times. They thought in those levels of technology as we see today. Technology is advanced. We are able to predict the greatest of storms. Today we are in the prediction mode. We can predict that there might be a storm which is brewing because of the differences in temperatures within the sea, because of evaporation, and we understand how storms are formed. We are also able to predict the trajectory of storms. But into the future, which will be just 50 to 100 years from now, we will be able to move away storms which move into land. We will be able to control the trajectory of a storm by changing the temperatures or with evolved technologies of the future times. So even the biggest of storms will not affect humans, and it will be redirected into spaces where humans do not inhabit. Also, we will have the technology to take in some of the power of the storms and use it for electrical energy, which will again empower the world and the society that we live in. But everything, as we understand, will be with the source code of life. The greatest of storms have power than 1,000,000 nuclear bombs, as we understand today. Except that the storms function on a different method. It does not blast. But there's so much of energy within a storm, and it's the energy of the universe, the energy of the earth, the energy of the source code of life. In future will be used for humanity along with technology which is able to understand the source code of life for our planet. Let's replenish our earth. A camel moves in a desert with efficiency. The hereditary traits of a camel make it efficient for the desert. It is able to store water in different areas of its body. It is able to use water in very minute quantities and has made it so very efficient in terms of consuming water and its long trips. The hoofs of the camel are made so that it can protect itself from the heat of the sand, and the eyelids of the camel have a transparent covering which makes it see in sandstorms. Now if you bring a lion to the desert, it will not survive even for 2 or 3 days. A lion is efficient in the forest which it is used to. It is used to hunting prey in different ways. And it's a matter of evolution that it has grown over certain areas so that it can prosper in those areas. A dolphin and a whale and a shark is very efficient in the oceans. A shark cannot be ferocious on the land. Its basic traits, its instincts are to be with water, and it can only survive within the oceans and within the deeper parts of the ocean. And within the ocean, it's very effective to catch its prey. But as humans, we have evolved with technology so that we can move into any part of the world, the terrains, with technology. We have the best of desert vehicles, we have the best of clothing, we have the best of covering to protect ourselves in the deserts, and also travel hundreds of kilometers, either by land or by air or the way of our choosing. We have methods to travel in the forest in a safe manner, with the right kind of implements, with the right kind of clothing, with the right kind of vehicles which cover terrains of the forest also. We are underground tunnels which can move deep into the earth. We have the best of navigation systems within the rivers, the waterways, the seaways, and underwater submarines to go into some of the deepest areas of the sea. So as humans, we have evolved with the mind of the universal force, the source code of creation in terms of creativity. And the difference from all other species of life is that we have understood that creativity can help us move through all kinds of terrains on earth. Creativity also helps us bridge with the universal source code of life, the source code of truth of the universe. And this technology will evolve into the future hundreds and thousands of times. In the next 5 years, due to deep learning and AI as we call it. But once AI is in tune with the basic systems of life, the source code of life, the source code of the universe which provides life to all beings on earth, the natural systems of air, water, oxygen, gravity, we will be able to understand the natural systems of the earth much better. We will be able to travel millions of kilometers, and over a period of next 100 years we may travel to other planets. But as we mentioned before, our respect for the earth remains the same. There were 3 people in the year 2700. They were entrepreneurs they owned companies across the world, and they just not own companies within the earth, they owned companies outside of earth, within certain comets. They owned a company in a planet. So that was the kind of network humans had evolved to move into different planets and also establish companies which prospered along with the energies of the universe. It was no longer the energy of the earth itself, as humans had made systems of life available on other planets. There were companies formed on comets to extract the best of minerals, along with prospering with the comet. Extraction of minerals, extraction of gold or silver or any kind of metal was not about depleting the planet, but about helping the planet and also helping humans evolve with the natural systems of the planet or the comet. Such will be our evolution into the future of ideas, into the future of knowledge. Today we have an understanding that the greatest of deep learning and the quantum computers have helped us quadruple knowledge. Our systems of evolution have moved into a jet space till around 150 years back. It was at a very snail pace, which means that evolution happened in very minute degrees over a period of 500 years, 1000 years. But evolution has started into a jet space because it is quadrupling in knowledge. In every 5 years, nearly 10,000 years of percentage of evolution is happening. And with that kind of evolution, our only progress can be with the energies of the earth which sustain life, with the source code of creation. Let's replenish our earth. In the process of life a million years ago, the lions that we see today are very kind of smaller than the lions which existed around a million years ago. The lions which existed a million years ago were at least 10 times bigger than the present day biggest lions, which means that it was kind of as big as an elephant as we see today. To some of the skeletons that was found, which was a kind of million years ago found, it was not called a lion, it was called something else, but still, the bigger the size, the more powerful it seemed. But for evolution, the size of the animal did not matter. As you see, some of the largest dinosaurs have become extinct. Some of the biggest lions and tigers and the biggest of birds which used to prey on other animals. There were birds which would fly and pick up deers, pick up cattle, pick up goats, which were around 10 times bigger than the vultures, as we've come through some of the skeletons of 1 million years ago. But all those kinds of species have become extinct. Now there's a reason for these creatures to become extinct, is because over a period of time the earth was supposed to be conducive to the natural systems of life, of the energies which provides life for every being on earth, and no prey which moved against the basic rhythms of life could survive for more than certain periods of time on earth. They became extinct because they were either too big, or they were too carnivorous, or they were too fierce. And today, as you see, some of the biggest predators are predators which can be managed by humans, to a large extent. So there was a purpose within the earth for humans to evolve and be one with these systems of life on earth. And the only reason by which humans have evolved, along with the creative source of the universe, along with the godly force in small minute degrees in terms of understanding in humans, is so that we worship, we adore, we respect the source code of life, which made humans different from all other species and helped humans evolve with the latest of technologies, the latest of creative implements, which makes our human species superior than all other species of life. Now, the only reason that we are superior in terms of other lives, as we see, is because we have the creative energies of the source code of life. And that's the only reason that we are called humans, and that's the only reason that we have that superiority ability within other species. But we should respect that creative source and not use it for our carnal desires alone, only for our flesh. We must use it along with other species of life so that they can thrive and evolve. But always the balance of nature is maintained. There cannot be any species which completely obliterates another species of life or maintains imbalance within the universe. Our technologies into the future will evolve with nature. As long as we respect nature, we will move with the source code of life. Let's replenish our earth. We must understand that the future of building systems is not as the way we build today. Today we build the greatest of buildings on earth, and we have reached a point of technology by which we can predetermine buildings and construct it beforehand and then just implement it at the place where we desire. The future of construction will be at the same pace by which we envision buildings, we envision bridges, we envision infrastructure. And the most remotest parts of the earth and the most uninhabitable places on earth as we see now, or the highest peaks on earth, the highest mountains on earth, will not be a hindrance in terms of our engineering abilities of constructions. The greatest of deep learning systems, the quantum computers, will help us construct in the highest of mountains on earth. We can have bridges connecting the highest of mountains and have different roadways, highways, expressways constructed at the fastest pace today. Into the future, this will evolve over a period of 50 years. Today we find it difficult at constructing at different terrains which are going to be very tough in terms of the mountainous regions, in terms of desert regions, in terms of waterways, in terms of underground systems of travel, in terms of construction under the sea. We should know that all this process of construction will be enabled by the greatest systems of deep learning, and it will be a very easy process for humans to construct along with the source code of creativity, which is enabled by technology. Today we call it artificial intelligence, but as long as it's along with the energies of the earth into the future, it's not going to be artificial. Let the greatest of buildings at the greatest of peaks, the most difficult terrains on earth, be it under the ocean, be it on the highest mountains on earth, the earth will be a place where infrastructure thrives along with the energies of the earth, along with nature, along with the flowers, the plants, the trees, the energy systems of life, the oxygen, the water, the rains, the rivers, the seas, the oceanic currents. And also we will be able to divert rains to parched areas of the earth. We would be able to have a system of temperature by which it does not exceed certain degrees in certain parts of the earth through the advancement of deep learning technology. Let the systems of construction into the future flourish only along with the energies of the earth which sustain life, and that is the only meaning of progress into the future. Let's replenish our earth. Let's examine as to how three young women got educated around 1,000 years back. How three women get educated today, and how three women would be educated 300 or 500 years into the future. Around 1,000 years back, education for men or women, and today we are concentrating on how women got educated, they were more tuned towards family life around 1,000 years ago, which means that women had the objective of maintaining a family and then helping the children prosper. So they were educated along those lines, and all of their education was based on the basic systems by which they could conceive a family, maintain healthy children, and help those children prosper, guide those children with the natural systems of the earth, which protected them and helped them flourish into the future. That was the basics of education for women around 1,000 years back. And most of the learning, even on the highest levels, but in some degree tuned to the same aspect of maintaining a family and then helping the family prosper into the future. Today, women have the option to move into different fields, and that is the greatest source of inspiration for women. They can move into the highest of fields, which means that they can be the best of pilots, the best of surgeons, the best of astronauts, the best of judges, the best of law enforcement officers, judges. Even the highest power on earth can be a woman. Today, women have that option and they are empowered. But still, the question of family also remains. It is no longer the objective of a woman to maintain the family alone. It is also men who can assist, help, and prosper the family together. Now, women have that instinct to give birth. Women are the only ones who can give birth to new beings on earth, in terms of humans or in other species of life. And that's the exclusive ability of women. And every human being on earth was born out of a woman, and we should respect the woman's energy, the feminine energy on earth. The feminine energy along with the masculine energy is what brings equilibrium of energies on earth, which helps the earth prosper. If you have a unbalance of weights, there will be unbalance of energies on earth, and that we must understand. And into the future, the education of the three women will be, along with technology, we will have the ability to move along with the source code of life, the deepest of learning system, the quantum computers. We will have access to our minds with any kind of knowledge that we want at our beck and call. The best of information sources will be available to women and also to men. But here we're concentrating on women. 300, 700 years into the future, there will not be any kind of distinction of women and men in any kind of sense. Women also will have all kinds of abilities. And also the question of reproductivity will be a choice of women. There will be so many other ways by which humans can fertilize eggs and make babies. Women will have a choice to have their own babies. But they would be empowered into the future along with men, and there will not be any kind of distinction. Along with the technologies of the future, The minds will be connected with the supercomputers, the quantum computers. And as humans evolve with technology, it will only make sense to move along with the energies of the earth with sustained life. And that will be the only source of technology which humans should evolve with. Let's replenish our earth. An uncle and an auntie around 700 years back were living in a kind of city which was 700 years ago. The uncle and the auntie wanted to enjoy life during those times. They had enough of wealth, enough of money in terms of gold coins. They were into trading, and the uncle worked with the king's court in advising in commercial matters. And through his advice, the king used to make purchases for the kingdom. And the uncle also would take certain commissions from people whom he would recommend to the king, because that was a source of income also. But he always made sure that he recommended items of quality to the king. Although he made a commission on it with the king's knowledge, even that time there was a kind of profit system. If someone did a work efficiently, if someone did a business efficiently, they were rewarded with a percentage of the business, and the king accepted it as long as he provided quality goods. The king relied on him for the best of chariots, the best of horses, the best of cavalry, the best of arms and implements for his kingdom. And the uncle, with his contacts, with his prowess of being commercially viable in terms of getting the right kind of products, which is of high quality for the king, and also taking the right kind of profit or percentage as a fair share, not exorbitant, but as a fair share of his services, as a percentage of services. The king appreciated him because at the end of the day, the kingdom had the best of chariots, the best of horses, and the most efficient system of governance, which was enabled by this uncle. And this auntie was no foreigner to the management of the husband's business. The auntie also helped him get the best of sourced products. She was also a very efficient negotiator for the right kind of horses. She used to travel the kingdom along with the uncle and find the best of horses and then negotiate. The uncle was not a good negotiator. He couldn't talk much, but she was very good at talking and convincing the traders to give the very best horses to the king's army, to give the best of chariots to the king's army, which was of high and efficient quality, the best of bows and arrows, and all of the required infrastructure which was required for the army. Also for the management of the kingdom, it was entrusted on him. And since he did an efficient job, as a couple, the uncle and auntie were rewarded with a kind of palatial home with hundreds of acres of cultivation. And since the uncle and auntie did not have children, they adopted around 10 children into their farmland, and they moved along with nature. They made the best of gardens and infrastructure. They grew plants, they grew trees, fruit-bearing trees, the best of vegetables. And they also had the best of animals. And then they invited the king for a tea into their private palatial home. When the king came to their place with all of his army, chariots and so, he was so impressed by the palatial home, he said that I'm going to stop my chariot just outside the gate because I do not want to create unnecessary burden on all of the plants, the animals, and the infrastructure within the palatial home. I would like to have a wonderful time in this wonderful abode which this uncle and auntie has created, along with their 10 children which they have adopted, along with nature. The king was so impressed by the palatial home and the development along with the source code of life, one with nature. They built the best of lakes, the best of streams. Birds were chirping. In the king's palace, although he had gardens, it was not as close to nature as it was. Then the king told him, you have managed a small palatial home as your own. Now I'm going to give you a palace, a summer palace, which I might live maybe for a week's time. But it will be spread out 10,000 acres. You must develop it and you will be living there with your family and all of your children also. Because he was impressed by the small palatial home which the king had given him and how this uncle and auntie along with the 10 children had developed it along with the source code of life, with the source code of creation, which sustained life for every living being on earth. Let's replenish our earth. A guy 300 years into the future wanted to impress his lady love. He loved a lady. He loved a young woman. And he knew that this woman loved a place of solitude and along with nature and especially the sea. So he thought about ideas as how he could impress this young woman. Not just impress, he wanted to take her to her place of her dreams. Now his concept of trying to please the woman was not to try to impress her, but to give her a fantasy which she had in her mind to be along with nature. Now it was not a fantasy of such that it was not possible, but it was something of a dream by which she wanted to be very close to the sea as much as possible. And 300 years into the future, they had construction abilities by which you could go into the deepest parts of the sea, the most furthest parts of the sea, and then construct a house right in the middle of the sea, thousands of kilometers from Earth. Civilization. So he wanted to build a house which was around at least 1,000 kilometers deep into the sea. But during those times, 300 years into the future, even 1,000 kilometers, with the latest of transport system, would just hardly take 30 minutes to reach back into the land. So he asked the architects, the construction projects, to begin the project right in the middle of the sea. And within a matter of a week's time, the best of infrastructure was built for a residence right in the middle of the sea, 1,000 kilometers from the nearest land area. And then he invited his lady love, and both of them moved in the vehicle right into the deepest part of the sea in the middle of the ocean. And they started to live there. And they were not alone. They had formed a kind of garden area along with the sea and the natural life of the sea, which included the dolphins, which included a park for the whale. They had systems of life by which they could be one with the aqua life. Now the aqua life were not contained. There were vast aquariums which was along with the sea and the natural life of the sharks, the dolphins, the whales were in full display, along with the beauty of nature right in the middle of the sea. The couple had a wonderful time, and over a period of time they had wonderful children who grew in the middle of the sea. Because during those times, humans had acquired knowledge with the deepest of learning systems, with the quantum computers, to build the most beautiful houses right 1,000 kilometers farther from land in the middle of the sea. And those homes were protected completely from nature, all the wrath of nature. And they were beautiful floating homes with all of the infrastructure. Such will be the abilities of deep learning, which will help us move with the energies of the earth, provided we have a clear purpose to move with the source good of life, which sustains all life on earth. Let's replenish our earth. Around 5 men and 5 women went on a long trip on an island within the sea. The trip they took was with a ship, which was made around 3,000 years back. The ship had a yacht to steer the winds. The 5 men and 5 women, who were also lovers and couples, boarded the ship with the yacht. The ship had rooms also. It had a kitchen, and it was the turn of each couple to steer the ship in the right direction among the high seas, and each took turn during the nights to steer the ship. And after a shift of every 8 hours, the couples took turn to steer the ship, so that everyone could be relaxed and move along with the breeze to an island where they could find a place of true love along with nature as couples. And so they set sail. The journey was very peaceful in the beginning. They enjoyed the seas, they enjoyed the lagoons, the fishes, the dolphins which swam along with them. The sight of the blue sea and the coral reefs was a joyous occasion for all of the couple. It was a very big ship, and the couples were also wealthy, so they had all kinds of food, nourishment, and the requirements to travel along in the sea in the most comfortable of manner. Over a period of 3 days, the weather started to change. The seas began to turn a little rough. But the 5 couples, still kind of enjoyed the adventure, because moving along with a normal sea, with a normal wind, became quite boring. When the winds came, their skills at sailing also were tested. So, in the night, the 4 couples were asleep and also enjoyed the sea while they were sleeping as being a couple. But this one couple found it a little more tough to navigate the high winds of the sea during the night. And by the 10th day of sailing, it would take them 20 days to reach the island which they were seeking out, along with the navigational systems of the time. Around this time, the wind started to become much more fiercer. The waves started to become much more fiercer. So this couple called out another couple who were sleeping to help them with their navigation during the night. And during this night, although the seas were quite tough, they were able to manage the high seas, the high wind. By the 14th night, the sea became very, very harsh. The only option they had was to take out the yacht. The yacht was a barrier to the most fiercest of winds. The yacht which were guiding them towards the island which they were seeking for the best of honeymoon, for the best of time, to enjoy their life as couples, was a hindrance during the highest of winds. It was causing a lot of turmoil within the ship, and they decided to take off the yacht. And the ship was devised in such a way that it was an oval kind of ship, and they moved into the interiors and covered the complete ship. The ship became a floating ball, and the highest seas, the highest waves were passing on to them. But because the ship was shaped like a ball, it started tumbling across the waves of the ocean. The couples within the ship were turned upside down. They were in all kinds of disarray. But because the ship was built in such a way, in such an intricate manner, by which it could still be a floating ball in the highest of waves, over a period of one day, the ship survived the most toughest of waves. The couples who were together in the ground floor in their respective compartments all came together and held each other for their lives. And that one day was the most precious time of their lives, when they experienced life and death as a group together. And that was their most intimate time, which they will never forget in the coming days or years of their lives. And that created the most unique bonding between them. The following day, after the highest of waves and the most fierce of wind, the sea turned calm, and once again they were able to hoist their navigational guidance systems, the yacht, to reach the island. They once again put up the yacht, and after this phase, the sea was the most assistive in their navigation towards the island. They sailed towards the island, and the couple had a wonderful time, the couples, in the island for the next 6 months, because they had prepared the ship with all of the requirements. Plus the island had all of the vegetation, the natural systems, the lagoons, the trees, and the environment, so that they could build their residences within those areas and enjoy their lives for the next 6 months. It was the most precious time during their lives. After 6 months, they returned back, and the couples held together as the most loyal couples in terms of trouble, goodness, happy times, sad times, because on that one day when they experienced life and death, that was the moment of understanding that everything is feeble. Life is feeble, but the most precious part of our lives is our understanding with others during the hard times, understanding with our most important people during the hard times in our lives. Once we respect that, we will be able to survive the highest of waves, the most fierce of winds. Without experiencing the troubles in life, we will not know what is the goodness of life. Let's move with the energies of the earth which sustain life. Once we are in sync with the energies of the earth which sustain life, and once we understand the energies of life, the oxygen, the water, the rains is what keeps us alive, we will move with the energies of the earth, the source code of life, for the future generations, and the future generation will respect us for what we do on earth and present for them, to help their lives into the future, so that they breathe the best of oxygen, the best of water, and the best of natural systems. The deep learning, the greatest of advancements, will help us come together if we have a focus on the nourishing systems of our earth, the life-giving forces of our earth, the natural systems of life which keeps every living soul on our earth alive today, the future generations, the future child, and every being on earth. The source code of life is of our energies, of our earth, is what holds our earth, our universe in its place, is what keeps every cell in our body alive, is what keeps our children alive and thriving into the future and their future children. Let's replenish our earth.